From the small screen to the big screen, including the written word and its such adaptations, everybody, when they're looking for new and engaging entertainment, they're heading east. And if you want a little bit of inside scoop, because you can go ahead and extrapolate from the headline right here, if you're looking for some, really, really quality music, and I'm not talking about K-pop or any of that trash, no. If you're into metal like I am, okay, Japan's kind of been where it's at for the past 30 odd years, but that's another topic for another time. But Japan just dominated this past weekend's box office with two singular films. Just outdid a whole handful of what the West has to offer. It's not just superhero fatigue. It's not just woke company fatigue. It's the culmination of the entire industry running out of ideas and people finally getting hip to that idea, and then also having access to alternatives, just like the only major boycott to really stick around for any sizable amount of time in 2023 was the Bud Light boycott, and it followed an exact same trajectory. Number one, pissed off all of its fans, all of its customers in that case. And number two, there was, and still is, numerous alternatives that people who are willing to pay the same amount of money, or maybe even a little bit more, would go ahead and get equal or greater value. And that's why their numbers are still where they're at right now. Talking about Bud Light, and while the competition is flourishing heading into 2023. So yeah, what should be a shock to nobody is that Beyonce, she can pop a rating real quick, but then after that she falls off, kind of like her looks, drops a massive, an MCU stage 4 level drop off, 77% in its second weekend at the box office, while Hayao Miyazaki's The Boy and the Heron makes a $12.8 million debut. That's Studio Ghibli, by the way, if you're not in the know on that one. It's an animated feature, okay? Or an anime, if you will. See what I did? Whatever. But despite a rather slow weekend at the box office, that's the way that they would like to paint it, but seeing I got everything pulled up, there's a couple of things that just immediately hop off the page. Obviously, okay, Studio Ghibli, however you want to refer to it as, one of their releases, that's always going to do numbers, okay? They don't come out all that often, and whenever they do, they're of super high quality. So it drummed the competition by a tune of about $3 million. $1 dues on the weekend. This is just simply the domestic box office. And then, I don't want to diminish the fact that, Songbirds and Snakes continues to hold on for whatever reason. I legitimately don't get it. Oh, you know why? Because it has such a massive lead over everybody else when it comes to available screens. And then you have Godzilla -1, which legitimately everybody is raving about. And then everything else, it's just all, trash films, specifically, okay? We got to give some flowers to the Western cinema, to the Western entertainment, because the Marvels, she finally broke $200 million, guys. Oh my God, okay? After such a wonderful turnout on the weekend of $1.3 million. Jesus, just take it out of theaters, for Christ's sakes. Like, you're bouncing around in the teens at this point in time, at a point where we would normally, under traditional release schedules, not even be looking at anything that would consistently hit the mid 6 digits. But this thing right here, it's scraping the bottom of the barrel. It is sucking so hard you hear that little sound at the bottom of a milkshake, and we just crested a month in the theaters, and it's already sticking true to that double-digit spot. But Disney is not quite done with their failures, because we got Wish, and hey, like I said, we're gonna hand out accolades. It finally crossed $100 million worldwide. It still has yet to cross that $50 million domestic, but don't worry, guys, it's not like they spent $250 million on this. Oh wait, that's exactly what they did. Fuck, we're in trouble, right? But it's weekend. Oh, it was slightly better. That's what ended up boosting it. But it fell off 500 theaters and still ended up dropping a third from its previous weekend, when it had a commanding 3,900 screens. And, well, the Marvels, the quicker they can go ahead and, shutter that out. The theaters, the better, because, on the weekend, only pulling in $372 per theater. Yeah, that's barely enough to keep the fucking lights on. What does that work out to? 100 tickets per day on the weekend? Get the fuck out of here. Yeah, between 50 and 100 depending on where you're at. That's atrocious, man. Absolutely atrocious. Whereas the two heavy hitters of the weekend, the animated The Boy and the Heron, Even though I did a little research when it comes to how much money was behind this, what exactly the budget was, it came up empty on that one, but just looking at comparables, but it's been a minute since Hayao Miyazaki, since retired and then came out of retirement to produce The Boy and the Heron. There's not a big budget behind this stuff. It doesn't have the laborious fees associated with it that you would be, likely to find with Wish. So even with the Japanese domestic release in July of this film, with very little promotion, by the by, it coming out over here, and given the fact that it's going to have good legs because of, good word of mouth, and very little competition in the realm of children's films, you're going to have a replacement for The Hunger Games coming out next week with Wonka. We see some early previews on that one tracking in that direction. But Japan looks like it's going to be wrapping up at least a sizable amount, maybe not the entirety, but a large portion of the children's audience going into the holiday season, because again, what's the competition that's out there? But as for the parents, they can go ahead and drop their kids off at The Boy and the Heron, and then the parents, they can go see Godzilla -1, which is having the time of its life, picking up theaters and making more money. I know it sounds weird in today's day and age, especially in the 2023 climate when it comes to the box office, but you don't see stuff like this, okay? It not having, much, if any, of a drop off. And like we've seen the last time that I talked about this, I think it was Thursday of last week, it came out that, Toho is more than willing, and apparently the studios or the theaters are more than willing to put Godzilla -1 in more theaters, or people are going to go out and see it. And guess what? People are going out and seeing it, because you look at that Saturday drop-off, that's wild, man. A rounding error. Some tickets ended up falling in between the seats in the theaters. And same with Sunday. That right there, that's amazing, because this will go ahead and it'll cross over with that same superhero action film audience. I mean, if, Aquaman 2 needed any more problems going up against it, Godzilla -1. And from everything that I heard about it, the different reviews, I think they've been relatively unspoiler filled, but managed to respond to a couple of the comments in the previous video, and everybody's raving about it, even in the comments section. And I'll probably pick up the 4K when it comes to this, because the lone cinema in my neck of the woods is kind of a dilapidated piece of shit and wouldn't end up doing this film any kind of justice. And quite frankly, my own personal setup, which is kind of sad given the fact that I don't watch any new media, mostly because, it's all been trash for as long as I can remember. And now with the influx, like I alluded to at the beginning, television, okay, everybody is checking out Eastern storytelling, anime adaptations on the TV side. And then, of course, you had the anomalies like Squid Game in a more live action traditional sense. And I know that that's not Japanese, that's Korean. It's different. But you move to the film side of things, and Korean cinema over the past few years has been bopping. What was that? Everything Everywhere All at Once being one of the best multiverse stories in a protracted period of time that Hollywood has been trying to cram multiverse stories down everybody's throat. The only one that registers on the Richter scale with anybody picking it up was the foreign film. The whole idea that, they can't make any money, stupid Americans, stupid North Americans, they just don't want to read their films, they just want good stories. Well, guess what? When Hollywood doesn't deliver on the good stories, they'll go ahead, okay? If they can resonate, if they can pick up what anybody who's acting on that screen is putting down, if they need to have the little bit of context at the bottom, when the giant monster isn't coming out through the water, I think that that's a pretty universal language. You don't need to have that dubbed over the top of it. But Japan is doing something that I was talking about and have been talking about and will continue to talk about until somebody in the Western market just simply takes note of this stuff. Japan just tells good stories. They tell archetypal stories. They tell stories where men are men. They might have some problems to overcome, like what I'm hearing about the plot surrounding Godzilla. That sounds very interesting. A very complicated guy who ends up getting his redemption at the end. Something that you're not going to see in today's day and age. All you're going to see is men get laughed at, men get ridiculed, men get blamed for everything, and then a woman is just going to come in off the sidelines, pick up for the buffoonish imbecile that was previously in charge, berate him, belittle him, and then do it better and in heels. Everybody Everybody's tired of this stuff. It has been going on for, a few decades at this point in time, but now it's just become so overt that nobody can ignore it. And now, just like with the Bud Light situation, here's an easily accessible alternative, and an alternative that is superior to the product that they're switching off of. So yes, more people are checking out anime. More people are checking out live action adaptations, thanks to the good and faithful One Piece one that came out earlier this year as well, that people were talking about heavy at the time. I don't know the first thing about One Piece, so I'm not even going to pretend to know any of that stuff, but I know a lot of people who did check it out liked it quite a bit, or at least thought that it was a serviceable and good story, something worthy of your time. But outside of one notable exception, House of the Dragon, there is nothing that's on the slate. There is nothing that Hollywood is going to be putting out in the near future that I'm even remotely excited for. We can go ahead and just, venture off into a different realm and something else that has also been taking a shit kicking for just about as long, if not longer, than Hollywood in general, and that's video games. There is nothing. And your boy used to be a big old gamer, and then he ended up getting, kneecapped by a Western studio prioritizing the message over decent storytelling and gameplay. Fuck you, Mass Effect Andromeda. I will never forgive you for that, but I am looking forward to one specific release next year. And guess what? It comes from a Japanese studio. Because why? They prioritize stories. They don't prioritize messaging. All of this westernized entertainment, all of the escapism that's right there, it has become so apparent that they don't care what is actually entertaining. They just simply want to preach to you. And now those chickens are coming home to roost. And now they have to wrestle with the fact that they're getting the shit kicked out of them by Japan. They could go ahead and rationalize that. Oh, that's just the comic book industry. Or just co-opt the sales of manga into it and say that, hey guys, it's better than ever. Just don't look at any of the numbers. It was happening with television. It was happening with streaming shows for over the past few years. And now that it's happening in Hollywood, is anybody going to sit around, or is anybody going to take stock and notice? Nah, they're just going to learn that Deadpool 3 is going to make a lot of money and continue to jangle some keys. And fucking people are unbelievably stupid. But the blueprint is right there. And if nobody on the west side of the world is going to pick up on this shit, fuck them. Leave it to the Easterners. They seem to be doing a damn fine job. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.